A man of average attractiveness has to swipe right 200 times to get one coffee, and then 4 of those 5 coffees will ghost him. You can't tell women to lower their expectations, but this is the reality.
Ladies, you know what the men who follow Scott Galloway call you? UBI. Yes, Universal Basic Income. They see you as nothing but a resource. Scott Galloway is getting on you for not allowing yourself to be redistributed to the men, so society won't collapse. He is knowingly asking you to put yourself in danger. I covered all this in my earlier video, which has now been suppressed by the Clock app. You can click below to check that one out. But look at what Galloway says out of his mouth.
The most dangerous person in the world, we're producing millions of them, and that is a lonely, young, broke male.
So they're so dangerous, he doesn't want them walking around in society, but he wants you as a woman to be alone with them. This guy also constantly argues that what's wrong with these young men is they're not getting enough smecks. He says women are withholding smecks. So he's telling you, set yourself up to be alone, to constantly be DV'd and SA'd at will. Also, men can prosper and society can prosper because the stats show women are already prospering, which he constantly says is a bad thing. Women do great no matter what the circumstances. According to him, women who raised in single-parent homes and two-parent homes have the same outcomes education-wise. So that proves it's not environmental, it's not nature versus nurture, it's literally women are self-motivating and do the work while men sit around being entitled, expecting everything to be handed to them, and now they're being validated. They're being validated by this administration, they're being validated by men like this idiot, telling them if they whine and stomp their feet enough, if millions of them quit their jobs and don't look for new ones, as millions of them continue to be neat, that is not employed, not in education, not seeking any training, that society is going to fall apart and women are going to beg them to resume their rightful place as the leaders of the household in our society. That is never going to happen. And probably even the men pushing this garbage, no, it's never going to happen. But what absolutely can happen is if women continue to place themselves in danger because of a fantasy of a happily ever after, enough bright stars will be taken out that men will fall upwards. Remember last year, the unalivings of several black women doctors over at the program at Clark Atlanta took place? Back to back. The woman the husband tried to unalive last week was a nuclear engineer. Even if she survives, will she be able to work in her field after severe brain injury and head trauma? We've been seeing case after case like that. Women in amazing careers doing absolutely incredible things being taken out by losers. The way society was set up was always affirmative action for men, keeping all qualified women and minorities out through legal suppression and the threat of force. It was a way to allow the most mediocre among them to thrive. And now that those avenues have been taken away, even though they're trying to roll back things like DEI, it doesn't matter if the men don't perform at all. If they have no credentials, they can't be in the space. So they're trying to push you out of the space. They're trying to empty the space. Because think about all the time and resources it took to create those black woman doctors or that woman nuclear engineer. Now that they're gone, who takes their place in the workforce? And what does that do to the prospects of all the women that were coming up behind them, the women who they won't get a chance to mentor or to inspire? It's a targeted attack at all levels to prevent women from being great. Click on the caption for my other video. I'm able to go into much more detail there. But long story short, stay safe out here. I keep telling you all, the more women that are single, the more women will become single because we see we don't have to put up with this stuff anymore. Women are thriving solo and men are begging to be let back into your shelter so they can take it over and cause chaos. Don't fall for it. That's it.
A man of average attractiveness has to swipe right 200 times to get one coffee, and then 4 of those 5 coffees will ghost him. You can't tell women to lower their expectations, but this is the reality.
Yeah, let's see what this reality looks like.
A tradie who murdered his pregnant wife, then dumped her body in an acid bath.
Just 2 weeks after the wedding, her husband killed her with a single needle.
Because she refused to appear on the reality show Zombie House Flipping.
After police say he strangled his pregnant wife to death. Yesterday, 38-year-old Lee Gilley was charged with murdering his wife, Krista Gilley.
Tell me the young mother was shot in her car in front of her 3 children. They say she was married and a victim of domestic violence.
This afternoon in the disappearance and murder of Brianna Winston.
She hasn't been seen in nearly 2 months, and now her boyfriend faces criminal charges.
And these men know these are the outcomes. Scott Galloway has already acknowledged the danger, and he's telling you to ignore it.
The most dangerous person in the world, we're producing millions of them, and that is a lonely, young, broke male.
These loneliness male coaches do not think you are benefited by getting into relationships with these loser men. They are saying, oh, well, society, if something doesn't happen, society's going to take a nosedive. There aren't going to be enough workers. The economy is going to go down. That's what this guy is. He's an economist. And he's saying sacrifice your life, possibly be unalived. So the economy can prosper. So the U.S. can remain a world superpower. It doesn't matter what happens to you. It's the same thing that happened under COVID. What were your leaders saying? Oh, maybe your grandparents are going to have to take the long dirt nap so the economy can do well. They don't care about you. They know they're telling you to put yourself in danger. I told you before, there is not a loneliness epidemic, there's an entitlement epidemic, and you see it happening at all levels. Women are outnumbering men in the college-educated labor force, and consequently, as reported yesterday, millions of men are abandoning the workforce, just stopping work. Somewhere between 6.8 and 7.2 million men are unemployed and not even looking for a job. A phenomenon that's literally never happened before. Why? Because they're spoiled. And they have all these sources, including the government, in their ear, telling them, oh, you deserve more. It's DEI, it's feminism, it's social forces. And that's why you're not where you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be the top boss, big shot. You shouldn't be taking orders from these women and minorities. You are entitled. And they're walking off of their jobs. They are exiting any kind of space that is merit-based. More men than ever are NEET. That is not in education, employment, or training. They're not doing anything because they've been told you deserve everything just for existing. And the solution to this problem being sold by men like this economist is, oh, women should sacrifice themselves for you. Women should lay down and die. We know women are making more money. They're educated. They can live independently and they are thriving. But because the system is not working the way it's always worked, we want to feed you to these violent men in hopes that they will just destroy you instead of destroying society. And this is what they're saying in public. This is what they're saying on the podcast. What do you think they're telling each other behind closed doors? These men who are trying to gain access so bad, you don't think they're doing it to take you out to dinner. You don't even think they're doing it to get your body. These men are firing each other up to be angry, to view themselves as victims who have been set upon by an unjust system. What do you think all these years of listening to this content is going to do when they finally have access to a woman? This is a setup. They want you to be a target to vent their rage upon. Do not fall for it. And here's why they're trying to manipulate women. The violence that used to be private is now public. So when you see incidents like this, remember just this New Year's, the man drove his car into the crowd in New Orleans. Why did he do it? Because he was getting a divorce and he was angry he couldn't get to his ex-wife. Not that long ago, in the 90s, there were hardly any DV laws, and the ones that existed were not being enforced. Men had carte blanche to do whatever the devil they wanted. Nicole Simpson Brown, a white woman married to a black man, called the police literally hundreds of times, came out, she had bruises and whatnot, and the police got her husband's autograph and kept on about their business. It was because of her death that the Violence Against Women Act was finally passed. When men talk about wanting to go back to the way that things used to be for their fathers and grandfathers, they're not just talking about the chore gap. They don't just mean you doing all the domestic labor. They mean being free to do whatever they want to your body. Men still unalive women. I mean, I showed you in the clips, they're doing it all the time. But those men know they're going to have to pay the ultimate price, which is why they either unalive themselves or resign themselves to going to prison for a very long time. But men nowadays, because they are red-pilled, are drawing a different kind of connection. They either blame society, like the man who attacked in the Bondi Mall, or they blame the government. Both of these men were incels. Both of them have been consuming a lot of red pill content. Austin William Lance, the man who attacked the officer at the Pentagon, had first been stalking his neighbors. They were an attractive couple in a happy relationship, and he made all kinds of threats against the woman. The woman left because she was smart, disappointed of the traditional victim. Disappointed of a woman he normally would have attacked and unalived, he then turned his ire towards the government because he was arrested when he broke into their house. They let him out on bond because he was a nice white man. And his parents claimed, he had mental health problems and he was going to go work for the father's firm and get therapy. And instead of doing that, he was all the way in Georgia. He got on a bus to D.C. He went to the Pentagon and unalived one of their officers. Same with the Bondi attacker. He was a young man who had consumed scads of that content, became angry at the world, and said, I'm going to punish them. The them being women, but also society. As long as the violence remains public, the government is responsible. They can't just let people roam wild doing whatever the heck they want in public spaces. They can't allow themselves, the government, to be attacked and impugned. So they want the violence to go back to being private. Thus, they try to convince you, through men like Galloway, it is your job to sacrifice yourself for the greater good. And it does seem like the situation is getting more dire because the violence that used to be spread out over decades when these men were harming their wives and their children is now coming out in a short burst. All that pent-up anger and violence is coming out in one incident because these men know this is their one shot. Once they have this one incident, they're either going to be unalived by their own hand or by the police, and that's it. And many of these men, being red-pilled themselves, admire the Elliot Rodgers types. They want to get on the news. They want to be famous. So they want to be as violent as possible in as public a way as possible to gain as much attention as possible. They want to be famous. They think they're martyrs. And so they're not going to go quietly. They're not going to do small things. They're going to do the most explosive things possible to get all of this attention on what they feel is their cause. And the government can't keep ignoring it. And they're not doing anything real to tamp it down, although apparently those groups are now on FBI watch list and they're finally taking the threat seriously because it's against society and not women. Nobody cared when it was just women being unalived. But now they can no longer ignore the fact that violence against women has been a major component of these huge public crimes going back for years. The Las Vegas mass pew-pewer first unalived his girlfriend, and he was a DVer. Many of the men who later carry out mass attacks have DV records, which is why they shouldn't even be allowed to own firearms, but that's another story. Ladies, continue to hold the line because this is what's going to happen if you do not.
My mom was calling the cops almost on a regular basis. Nothing was done, and she was terrified. She had found something in her Jeep, a tracking device. She had found cameras inside the house.
He has no idea what I go through every single day with him. No idea.
That is some of the last footage of the victim of that case who was unalived after reporting repeatedly to the police that her ex-husband was stalking her with all kinds of physical proof, bruises, everything. Unfortunately, the system isn't broken, guys. The fact that women are often unalived with the restraining order in their hands with a protective order on the books is a feature, not a bug. They want you to wear yourself out, making the report and proving he's doing it so they can ignore you and the system is going to function like it's supposed to. You absorb the violence and life goes on for everybody else. They want you to step back into that role. Don't do it. Because as long as the once private violence remains public, they are obligated to do something about it. They have to do something about it. But when it goes back to being just you and him, it becomes, again, a he said, she said. They will find every reason to ignore you. And sometimes they don't. Sometimes the cops do their job. But if the man is that determined to get you, there's nothing they can do about it. As evidenced in this particular case. I can't play this video because of its violent nature. It will get the whole thing taken down. But this is footage from a police body cam. A black man unalived his black girlfriend right in front of the police. When these losers project their frustration at their failed life onto you, they will become so angry and so bitter, they don't care if they have to lose their own lives in the process. Because the thing is, they don't care. Because they didn't have anything going on anyway. They want to get with somebody who's much better off and make themselves feel accomplished by trying to dim your shine. They think they're going to live off you. They're going to sponge off you. They're going to have that in-house mommy bang maid to make it all better. But they still feel that sense of disgust and worthlessness when they look in the mirror because they know they haven't accomplished anything. So they blame it all on you. And that's when the DV starts. And that's when the name calling and the belittling and all that goes on. But that's still not enough to make them feel better. They have to grind you down to nothing. They have to take your life. Now, I have to say, the demographics a lot of times do not unalive themselves. But this guy, did what was called unaliving by cop, because when he pulled out a you-know-what in front of the cops and unalived this young woman, he knew there was only one way it was going to end up. So he was probably too cowardly to do the job himself. And he figures, now I get to go out acting like a victim. And sure enough, if you look at the comments on this video, oh, 2 lives were lost, oh, blah, blah, blah. This man is not a victim just because he was unalived by the cops. He was a monster. Don't do it. Don't put yourself in danger, because once these creatures set their sights on you, once they lock in on you and become convinced you are the problem, nobody will be able to save you. It's like a heat-seeking missile, and the government knows that. Society knows that. Right now, the missile's locked in on them. Right now, all of the red pill and incel guys, what are they saying? Oh my God, it's society's fault. Society should have done this and society should have done that. Women are actually catching a little break. We're getting a reprieve. And so they're trying to put you in these men's crosshairs again. Don't fall for it. Let them deal with the problem they've made. They have made these entitled men. It is up to them to solve the issue without using you as a human shield. That's it. Like and follow for more. Stay safe out there. Nobody else is going to protect.